everybody, and welcome to Guts and Glory. I'm your host, Chantal. We have a wonderful guest here today who has an incredible story of triumph to share with you. I'd like to welcome Alia Abutalib. Hey, Alia.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
I know we've had a lot of conversation before the show, so we really need to get into the nitty-gritty right now.
Yes.
So tell us about your journey. I just want to take us way back. So
Way back.
way back.
We're going to that.
So you were diagnosed with Crohn's disease 27 years ago.
About 27 years ago, I remember it was, I actually remember it as February 12th, 1996.
Oh my gosh, you remember.
I remember the moment, I remember the feeling, I remember exactly where I was, I remember the doctor, I remember everything.
And at that time, how old were you when you had that diagnosis?
It was about a month before I turned 12.
My gosh, you have such strong memory of that.
I remember it, yeah.
But you were unwell for a couple years before that, right? It wasn't just like you became sick and your diagnosis, like you had some issues.
Yeah, I remember becoming really symptomatic around the age of 10. I went from being extremely healthy. I was very, very athletic, involved in every sport possible. Always top on my teams. To just every symptom you can imagine. It was bad.
And you're so little. You're 10.
Yeah, and I had no idea. I remember not knowing what I was feeling, except that it wasn't good. And I remember the feelings that came along with it of people just not understanding and I guess almost not knowing what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you started getting medical attention, did your diagnosis come fairly soon at that point?
Yeah. So how I remember it happening was I think it was my family doctor. Everyone, even though I was only 10, they're or I was 11 then, sorry. They're we think she's just being a stubborn pre-adolescent.
Picky with your food.
Yeah, just being a brat, literally being a brat. I just didn't want to go to school. And it's no, I was in severe pain and you could see in the weight change, I was skin and bones. I couldn't eat. I couldn't stand up straight. I did not do any of my activities anymore. I was actually in a really bad place mentally, even at that age.
Well, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And you're going through serious physical illness.
I've never even really spoke about that because it's just crazy to think back that what I was going through actually from 10 and how I felt. It's pretty scary. But I remember in terms of the diagnosis, finally, they actually sent me to sick kids.
Right.
Thinking I was being bratty.
So for psychological assessment, essentially.
They wanted to admit me to, I remember the unit 7A, eating disorder floor. And I'm thinking, how are you going to afford? And I remember the fear being I'm very confused because you have all these people who are talking about you you're not even there. You know what you're feeling. You're a whole person. It doesn't matter that you're a child. I was very aware. And they ended up finally doing some testing. And that's immediately when they were oh.
You actually have a chronic illness.
She's very severely ill. I wasn't just trying to be a difficult individual.
I have no experience I was diagnosed at 20. So the only experience that I know of people who have been diagnosed with IBD as a childhood have been through guests and people that I've met along the way. And it's interesting to see similarities in the stories in terms of people having strong memories of not thinking that kids were just being picky or that kids didn't want to go to school or that they were looking for excuses and not really taking them seriously until it became so ill. Until you're to the point where you're this, we don't know what to do.
Yeah, and it was really traumatic. And it was actually really traumatic in the sense of, you're not being heard and you have people telling you, I got in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
A lot of trouble
because you acted out. Right.
I wasn't even really acting out. I just I couldn't go to school. I was in pain. And I had also switched schools and not having a really good experience in my new school. And they were just you're missing school. They would bring me into the principal's office, scream at me. You couldn't do those things nowadays to someone's child. But yeah, no, I felt very persecuted and it was very traumatic. And those things have stuck with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So once you got your diagnosis at sick kids, did because we're going to get to a year and a half ago, like what you kind of was.
Just over a year.
Yeah.
A year and a half, yeah.
So when you got to sick kids, you got your diagnosis. Did you then get on a treatment plan? Did you see yourself in a little bit of remission for a few years? Like 27 years ago is a long time. Like tell us about the 27 years post diagnosis.
So, from I was diagnosed, I pretty much had to learn the illness myself.
Right.
I remember I was put on prednisone. Yeah, not there was no biologics at that time, not
Right.
promoting all those things.
But just there was a certain class of
Yeah,
medication.
my father was a single father doing the best he could.
Right.
And my dad actually probably had a harder time with it than me.
Like how do you navigate a sick child?
He couldn't understand, and he still to this day struggles. And he couldn't understand that it's not curable.
Right.
Like he would tell people it's curable, and I'm like,
But it's not.
and I'm 12 now,
Yeah.
and they're like, no one's listening to a 12-year-old. I'm like, no, it's not.
Right.
Like I'm explaining to you, it's chronic. Like it's not going to go away.
Like I might get to a point where I start to feel better, but it's always looming that this could happen again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a very, very hard time, as I do still to this day, adjusting to medication. The prednisone was just,
Like you mean when you have to change and go on to something new?
yeah, my body's very sensitive to medication. Like I actually get weird side effects, like just everything under the sun. Like and they can make me quite ill actually. Do the opposite of what they're supposed to do. So I was on prednisone for years. That seemed to be the only thing. They tried like a bunch of other therapies.
But that was giving you some sort of relief in a way, which it often does.
Yeah.
Prednisone is usually like,
It did give relief.
yeah, it's just not a long-term solution.
Yeah. And then, I didn't even understand that my face was so swollen until,
Face.
until you look at pictures and
Yeah, you're just like, whoa.
kids are cruel too. Kids are cruel.
Yeah.
So that was like the intervention, definitely for the first long, long while.
Right.
I started getting hospitalized pretty consistently, from I was 14.
Okay.
And then once biologics came out, I was 19. They weren't fully approved yet for Crohn's disease. They were still in whatever trial,
Yeah.
but they ended up putting me on Remicade at 19. And I think that was probably the first point where I was really able to stop taking prednisone.
And feel some type of sustained
For a little
version
bit.
of wellness.
Yeah. I was good for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna, is it okay if we go to February 2022?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, what is it now? April 2023? It's April 2023.
Yes.
So February 2022,
Yeah.
you are extremely ill. You're in the emergency department.
So I'll kind of backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
All the pandemic. So, okay, I'll try to brief it up. I got hit by a car in 2019.
Lord, girl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good times here.
Right.
It sent me into a whirlwind of
Just
a
difficult.
flare.
Right.
Like it was really bad. They were trying to treat it. Nothing was working. I was on antibiotics. Developed C. diff.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Here we go, friends. Here we go.
C. diff is, and it took them a long time. The test kept coming back negative for a long time. I was very sick.
Right. I think also too, like when we have IBD, like every single time I've ever went to emergency and I've been like, I'm flaring, like I have ulcerative colitis, I have inflammatory bowel disease, like this is what's happening to me. There's always like, we're going to test you with C. diff first. We're going to put you in quarantine. We're going to test you for C. diff. As soon as you say you have diarrhea, it's like, oh, yeah, and they keep running those tests. And most of the time they come back negative because you think, okay, this makes sense. This is my disease. Like this is what's going on.
You're literally a prisoner in your own body.
Yeah.
The toll it takes on your mental health, because I went down to like, I think at one point 95 pounds, and they're like, there's nothing wrong with you. I'm like, do I look like that? Like, and that's scary when multiple doctors at top hospitals are like, yeah, the blood work looks good, whatever. We can't. I'm like
the tests are not
showing. And I'm like, perfect. Like, like obviously there's something wrong. So, I ended up being back on prednisone
because of the C. diff.
After they treated that, I just, that just takes even more of a toll on your colon. C. diff, like it actually can put, I'm not a medical professional, but healthy people, it can induce colitis in healthy people.
It's just like a lot of, it wipes out your bacteria, a good bacteria. We say the word bacteria, we always think
the healthy
negative.
bacteria.
The healthy bacteria. But that's the same thing with antibiotics and stuff too. Like it's anything that's going through
Yeah.
your body like that takes its toll. And then
Exactly.
you're already someone with IBD.
Yeah, and we're in the midst of the pandemic.
Yes.
So there's
In
like,
case you guys forgot about that.
yeah, this is, oh God, like the only thing that was nice at the very beginning of the pandemic, and I feel bad saying it, is like the emergency department,
It
like,
was quick.
because people were petrified to go, which also
Yeah.
made it bad because people was actually staying home and were dying.
Yeah. It was like that third, like I had a,
People were petrified.
yeah, it was like, it's like the third wave of COVID is like the people who
I was
needed
going to
yeah, who needed to seek
yeah.
medical attention during COVID and didn't because they were afraid to go to the hospital. And now, like, they're in stage 4 cancer and different levels of disease, when they just would have went to get help in the first place. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally get it.
And you're on biologics, your immune system's weak. You are sitting beside people who are
Yeah.
are actually positive.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is a lot. So fast forward, I'm failing all these treatments. They have me now on like tests, trials.
Right.
December 25th, 2021. So Christmas Day, that whole week, I just was like, I don't feel really
Is that
good.
right?
Like it was lethargy to the point I was like passing out. I was like, something just doesn't
Feels like a lot of malnourishment and like,
I've never felt anything like that.
yeah.
Like it was awful. So, but I had also just stopped prednisone.
So there's just like my body's with weird stuff. Like,
But I know that can affect your adrenals. So
we do this though? Do you know that? Like, as chronically ill people, we will be having symptoms we've never experienced before or symptoms that we've sort of had before. And we always make a reason as to why it's happening in our brains, honestly. And I kind of
taught your condition too.
and it's a bit of a coping mechanism too. Like, okay, this must just be because I stopped this medication. Like, we'll give it a few days and I'll be okay. Like, oh, this must just be because I ate such and such. It'll be
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
Like,
it's also the education part too.
Yeah.
I know the toll that prednisone can and will, for the most part, take a toll on you long-term use.
yeah.
So as soon as I went into the emergency, I remember just like passing out and there was pain and I just immediately kept telling them as I was like passing out, I was like, I've just finished prednisone. Please check my adrenals.
Yeah.
Please check my adrenals. And a doctor, because I don't think they have a specific endocrinology team there, internal medicine, they're like, your adrenals are messed. You were correct. I was like, I knew.
Yeah.
So
You're also just coming off of C. diff, having C. diff. You have
I did a
cirrhosis.
few months that I'm in a very severe flare. I was at the worst level of inflammation.
I was going to say your C-reactive protein was probably through the roof.
Oh, it was magnificent.
Yeah.
I like that. And I always tell them, I'm like, check this, check that. Like, I have to tell them sometimes what to do. Just because I know my body, right?
Yeah.
So I was diagnosed with secondary adrenal insufficiency due to the use of prednisone. So basically, prednisone makes your body produce cortisol. So your body stops producing it on its own, and it's really dangerous. You need cortisol to function.
Right.
So now we're having to supplement that, and now I'm back on a steroid
To fix the steroid.
to fix that.
So did they hospitalize you at that point?
Oh, I was hospitalized.
Okay.
And then they kept sending me home. Like,
But meanwhile, you're still saying, like, I'm Claire. You're still saying, like, I'm Claire. It's not just an adrenal
the
thing.
days they were discharging me, I was walking down the hall like this. And I was like, I don't feel good. And
Like, something's not right.
you're okay. And literally it got from, I was discharged probably about 4 times, and it went from like 2 days, 1 day, 12 hours, 6 hours, I'd be readmitted.
You think they would have seen this trend?
Yeah. So finally, January 1st, I was like admitted. I was really out of it then and very severe pain. My sister drove me to the hospital. I remember, I couldn't feel anything, but I felt pain.
Right.
And I just remember those couple weeks, like from the Christmas Day to then, I don't know how to explain it, but I felt like I was actually dying. Like,
Yeah.
I was petrified.
Yeah.
And so we get to emergency. Emergency is ram-packed. Nobody can come in with you. I can barely walk. They throw me because I can't stand up. They literally are like, get on that stretcher while they're doing construction in like a really cold area.
Yeah.
They can't get IVs, nothing.
Well, you're totally dehydrated at this point. Like,
I couldn't even speak. There's just tears rolling down my face. I actually almost called 911. I'm not even joking.
yeah.
I was, and the nurses just started running over, and they were trying to get anything into me, fluid, pain meds. and they took me up to the annex emergency, and that's when I was admitted. And it took a couple weeks. I was so backed up from strictures, the inflammation.
I was just going to say, I'm assuming there was something going on there.
It was so bad. Like, I don't want to gross anyone out.
This is a podcast.
I know. I just don't want to traumatize people, but it was.
We do gross.
I know. But it's real life. It was. I was so backed up. They were pumping me full of so many things to flush out, and not one thing was working.
Yeah.
And
but when you have strictures and you have I have essentially lazy colon right now, now because of so much disease and so much scar tissue. So as someone with IBD, it's almost like I have the opposite problem, having the problem of constipation and not diarrhea right now.
People don't realize it can go both.
Yeah, they don't realize that. But you have all these strictures, so things are not moving.
There was just my rectum. Yeah. I went to the bathroom normally.
Yeah.
I didn't have diarrhea. So I needed that.
Yeah.
Non-stricture.
Yeah.
And plus I had the inflammation on top of the stricture.
Right.
So basically the only answer at that point was, I was so badly backed up. They were trying everything. I couldn't even pee. It was pinching my urethra.
Yeah.
So they had to keep doing in and outs. That alone, the pain of just not being able to pee, my bladder alone it was bad.
So you obviously had some significant damage to the colon, to the rectum you mentioned.
Predominantly the rectum.
So you ended up having a proctocolectomy.
It was decided essentially for me to survive, long run. I really needed to have a full proctocolectomy. So a full proctocolectomy, what that entails is the full removal of your colon, full removal of your rectum, and your anus. I think they leave a stump.
Yeah. For
the anus.
Just for some of our listeners, when we say colon, some people refer to this as the large intestine. So your GI tract, is obviously bum to gum. You have your small intestine, which makes up the majority of your intestine. There's a lot of feet of small intestine. And then you have your large intestine, or traditionally what most people will call your colon.
Yeah.
So you had your colon removed, you had your rectum removed. Well, they would have been taking the rectum out. And then if you don't have a rectum, you obviously It
was decided to also take I really kind of did want to keep my colon, even though I know, just because I had heard there's less output.
Right.
You're trying.
Right.
Anything.
Right. And you are literally on your deathbed at this point.
1000%.
Yeah.
I'm all I could think about.
I'm head in this.
I have my dog at home, as silly as it sounds, who is waiting for me to look after her. I really had no one.
It's not silly.
It was just.
I now have a dog, and it's my life.
I was traumatized.
Yeah.
So yeah, the colon, the rectum, the anus. I also had a tumor on my ovary that was left untreated during the pandemic as well. So I was
they took that too?
I told them I was
same time.
It was a brutal surgery. It was I think 8 to 9 hours.
Right.
Because I had one previous surgery when I was 15. So their goal was to do it laparoscopic. I knew it kind of wouldn't work out like that because of scar tissue, but they tried to do it like that. But they
and also having to remove something from your ovary.
Yeah.
That's a lot of, to be honest, I get the laparoscopic, it's less scar tissue, but when you're going in there to take this much out, I need you to see what you're doing.
Yeah. I always just tell them, I was whoever has the smallest hands, I don't know how it works, but yeah. So I woke up. When I woke up, I ended up having a C-section cut.
I was going to say, I wonder how they went about doing.
So that's all I can tell you about.
So now you have a permanent ileostomy.
I have a permanent ileostomy now. Yeah. So it can't, unless there's some form of technology that eventually comes around in my lifetime.
Yeah, don't know about that.
Don't know. I don't even know if I would want to opt for it potentially. So yeah, I have a permanent ileostomy now.
So this has been a year.
February 3rd, 20.
So you're a year and 3 months, year and 2 months kind of as an ostomate.
Yeah.
And a Barbie butt.
A Barbie butt, yeah.
Which is a term I learned, a few years ago with a podcast host, but you had an interesting story about the Barbie butt thing.
Oh, God. Okay, so what?
Feel free to share.
I spent months in the hospital, months.
Yeah.
And because I had every complication, got COVID, after hospitalized with COVID, no home care, everything under the sun I got. So I was in the hospital quite a bit of time. So,
They knew you were coming. They knew you. You walked in the
they,
triage. Was like, hey, girl.
they're like,
Welcome back,
oh,
Alia.
oh, here she is again. It got to the point, everyone sees everything on you.
Well, you just don't have, like,
You just don't care.
yeah, you know what? I think
You
after
don't.
a few years after having IBD, like, I feel like my sense of, like, shame and, like, my sense of just, like, "Oh my god, this is my body," like,
You become humble.
it just
Very.
went quite out the window, and, like, I don't have children, but, like, when I speak to my friends who have children, like, a lot of the women in my life be like, "It's the same thing after you have kids."
Oh yeah, you
Like,
don't
this is
care.
just the way it
Like
is. Like,
this is what it is. Like this is actually reality. And once like I always said like I will never use a commode. I used to make myself basically crawl to the bathroom. I'm not used to the commode.
and now it's just like,
After the surgery, you have to use the commode because you can't lean back
yeah,
because if your bum cheeks spread,
you're gonna tear the stitch.
you literally can rip your
Butthole.
butt open.
Yeah.
Like I have to laugh about it.
We should probably back up a second.
Sorry.
For people who don't know what a Barbie butt is.
Okay, yes, what is it?
Because it, like, for example, go ahead, Barbie butt.
So basically, we
Hashtag.
hashtag Barbie butt.
Yeah.
Why we call it a Barbie butt is
Because, like, Barbie doesn't have a butt.
Barbie does not have a butthole. So
It's just, like, cheeks.
it's just the line. It is just a line.
The credit card swipe. That's
Yeah.
all.
If you want to do it like that at the club, go right ahead. You want to try it out.
My goodness.
Can you imagine if it
I love
could take
films.
payment?
I just
though?
want to say,
If it could take payment, I'd be real happy.
I feel like there needs to be an OnlyFans for that or something.
You know what? Everybody has been asking to see it.
People have kinky fetishes, okay? So, like, 100%. I've learned. So, yeah. So, Barbie butt doesn't have a hole. It's just two cheeks. So, when you had your proctocolectomy, they would have taken, obviously, inside colon. They take the rectum. They take the anus. They sew it together.
Yeah, they sew that thing shut.
So, you have, like, two cheeks and, like, just a beautiful skin.
Basically, the way I walked into my surgeon's office one day, and they know I'm a little silly, we'll say, but yeah, that's the term we'll use. I was like, look, guys, I was like, it's like I have a year-round Christmas tree that there's no function for it. It's just there for decoration.
Pretty my asses.
It has it's just there.
You could wear thongs and never have to worry about jack shit.
No, literally.
Quite literally.
You still get that,
Pun intended. Yeah.
wedgie.
But still, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't have a Barbie butt. I'm very.
But that was a question I actually asked my surgeon. I was like, I don't have any shame because I was afraid. Oh God. I was traumatized. I was like, if I wear a thong, and all my friends were like dying of laughter. I was like, guys, I'm being like dead serious.
This is not a funny situation right now.
Funny, but not funny. Because the way I just say things is very like,
Direct.
it's direct.
If you are not direct with IBD, you are missing out.
I'm
missing out.
Yeah.
Like,
It is what it is.
it's an opportunity.
I flat out was like, I need to know if I wear a thong, is it going to rip my ass? Is it going to rip me I'm so sorry for swearing, a new a-hole?
We swear on
I
the
know.
show.
A new asshole. I was...
Also, asshole, I think, is like regular part of IBD.
Yeah. I was...
Not for you anymore.
Not for the but I was petrified. I was absolutely petrified of like
you know what?
those things of like adjusting to like that's what people don't
But you know, you're sitting here and you're like, oh my gosh, like I was asking these questions, like, if ever I were to be faced with a surgery like you were to have, right?
Like, they don't worry about those things.
No, like, I don't think this is like the first thing your doctor's going to say to you. Like, so just to let you know, for the next 68 weeks, you cannot wear a thong. Like, these are not, like, you know what I mean? But these are honest to goodness, like, real human questions. Like, I am going to live with an ostomy for the rest of my life. I'm now going to have a Barbie butt. You need to get a shirt, by the way, hashtag.
Or a tattoo.
That's what I'm saying.
Something.
Right on the ass, Barbie butt.
I don't know, it was something really epic.
Yeah, but I just like, I get it though. Like these are the questions, like just full on.
Because you still want to remain the hardest thing, especially after surgery. Number one, I was so swollen from prednisone surgery. I've never.
Plus, you also had had something removed from your ovary.
150 pounds of water retention.
Right.
Like you could have rolled me like, what's her name, Veruca Salt, like in Charlie. I literally was a balloon. And I had to shop for clothes because I could not wear anything.
Yeah. So now you have an ostomy, so it's like adjusting to what can you wear, what can you wear.
It does hurt. I don't care what they tell you at the end. They're like, oh, doesn't hurt. No, you're recovering from surgery.
My gosh, you
It hurts, and I developed
anybody who's had any abdominal surgery knows you're gonna have
well, I
tightness and it's gonna be pain and just like sore and just like
well, and you have your intestines sticking out.
yeah.
And I kept telling them something doesn't feel right, but I've never had a stoma. Like,
So this is probably
it took them 3 weeks. I was in such severe pain. They're like, "You have pyoderma, PG." I forget the name, the exact word. Basically, the Crohn's spread right around,
like around the stoma, the site. Okay.
and you have to put
You had to treat
touch that. You have to put tape on it all the time, obviously, because you have to wear
the
you
bag.
can't not wear a bag.
You have to hold
Like,
compliance in place.
so imagine having an open wound and being like, I have to. It's
Continue to stick something
yeah.
to it.
Finally, 3 weeks in, they were like, "Oh, that is a very painful thing." I was like,
Thank you for validating what I've been feeling for the last
validating that. When I literally was like, "I need pain meds," and the pain management team was like, "No, thank you."
Like when doctors and nurses say things to us that you're like, yes, this is what I've been saying this long. Sometimes I just want to be like, thank you.
I do. I do. I turn to them and I'm like, "Thank you for recognizing me as an individual."
Thank you.
My daughters know me really well, though. I did, like, I had to laugh at a lot of things when I was there, like, especially with the surgical team, even, like, the students, because, like, Sinai, that's my home hospital. Pretty much all of University Avenue is, like, teaching hospitals.
Yeah.
So I always try to have a good time with, like, the medical students because, they come in.
Like you need to know that this is going to be the rest of
No,
your life.
a lot of them don't know things, but they're so eager.
Yeah, 100%.
And I love those
I love students. I
and they
love students.
want to know all these
If you ever, I've been asked before, like, oh, can we have a couple of students like come into your?
Oh, I
I'm
was
like, why are you even asking? Bring in the whole crew.
Oh, I did. They would
I will. I will be live on City TV Toronto if you want to. Like, let's do it.
I like my pick line. You want to change it? I'm like, you want to look at that, do all that.
So you came out of surgery, your friends, you've got a Barbie butt, you have an ostomy. I can just imagine people like, can you show me?
Everybody
What were they more excited to see, your ostomy or your Barbie
They
butt?
were like, some of them were frightened. Some of them who were like moms were like, "Can I see it and watch you empty it?"
At this point, you're just like, and here we go.
I didn't even care. I was like, you know what? Let's go for it because I may need help at some point.
Well, it's true.
I was like maybe 2 months post-op, but like my friends are like, I want to see it, like my butt. They wanted to see my butt. So
Also, good on your friends for just being like straight up with you.
yeah,
Like
they're like, I want
like
to see
Aaliyah,
it.
I would like to see your ass.
Absolutely. But then I realized I did start showing it off in contained environments. But then I was like, I probably
Key point, guys. Please keep it contained.
contained environments, not in public, not in Walmart, not in No Frills. It is not happening. But then I realized, and no, I'm not doing this, but I should be charging these people
This
for this.
get your credit cards ready.
So I'm like, can we just like implant a chip or something here where they can just tap the payment,
Apple Pay or whatever.
yeah, so whatever it works. But yeah, a lot of people are very curious.
It's interesting. And like, wherever you are right now in your IBD journey, I always wanted to say this almost as like a little bit of a disclaimer. Like we're a year and a bit past, your surgery right now. We're laughing about some things. We're talking about trauma. We may have listeners right now who are nowhere near that, who they could be about to have surgery, post-op, still dealing with, I'm sure, very various levels of grief, really, like grieving in different components. But it seems like you now, where you are now, and this could just be today, this could be April 2023, but that you have a way right now to find a silver lining in humor in your experience. But I wonder too, Leah, does that come from, people like us who have IBD or anybody chronically ill or anybody who experiences something traumatizing, is it a way to cope? Because we've seen so much darkness.
So when you were asking me the question, the key word for that was seems. And I'm generally,
Yeah.
I come across as a happy person. I'm happy. I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
Am I grieving? Am I still going through the process? Yes. Do I cry sometimes, almost every day? Yeah.
Do we self-pity? 100%.
Like it's hard. And I can only speak to
Your experience.
my experience.
That's right.
My journey. It brought up a lot of trauma for me. the surgery's done wonders for me. Like, I don't want anyone to ever think that it hasn't, but there's things that come with it, just like everything in life. You wake up, you have this. I was lucky where I knew going into this, I would wake up having this. My heart breaks for people who wake up not knowing.
That this was something they were going to.
It's very terrifying to have a part of your inside that's meant to be kept on the inside, on your outside. I felt very unsafe.
Right.
I felt very physically unsafe, especially like living in downtown Toronto. Not in the sense of like someone's going to attack me, but I was like,
You're like walking in busy streets, someone bumps you.
people don't care.
Yeah.
People bumping you, having to get to my appointments. Like
Yeah.
I was, off work, not getting EI with the pandemic, and like, trying to make do with what I have.
A sense of like protection. Like, how do I protect myself?
My first inclination for everything, and I have a dog, a large dog too, is like I'm always like getting better, but is to protect.
It's an instinct.
Yeah, it's an instinct. But I went through this process majority alone. So, and again, that's my story.
Right.
So
just not having like the family support.
I did not have the support I needed at all. My support was predominantly my medical team, and I'm very lucky for that. Because number one, that's not their purpose. They don't have time for that in general, especially within our healthcare system, thanks to our wonderful government.
Yeah, whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
Just kidding. No. Upside down smiley face.
Like the crisis that our system is alone.
Yeah.
Really bad. So even just the mental health that you're going through, and I have access to that, thank goodness. It's hard. Like I have days where I can't get out of bed.
Yeah. And you have quite a large family.
I think you're large.
You had said something interesting. I don't know if you noticed that you had said, but you had said I didn't get the support that I needed from my family. Yeah, I think that's so key, because you could have people who are supporting you in your life, but if it's not the support that you need for what you're going through, like no disrespect to them,
no,
but it's not helping you.
The way I try to and I've learned this from when I was very young, like I've experienced trauma in lots of ways.
Yeah.
I think we all have requirements. We should have requirements for what we need in our life.
Right.
But sometimes those requirements, those expectations are not fair to put on certain people. They're not capable. Some people aren't even capable of doing things for themselves. And for the people that did try to be there for me, what I can say is I know they did the best.
To their capacity.
I
understand.
Because I also will acknowledge having to watch someone, and I'm a really tough person. That's what people tell me all the time. And it's hard hearing that sometimes because I don't feel it.
Right.
You're kind of
I get it.
To be.
People will say you're so strong. Like people said to me oh my God, you're the strongest person.
Like I don't want to be.
Yeah. And part of me wants to be obviously they mean this as a compliment. Yeah. Thank you. However, you're I'm forced to have to be this way.
I have no choice.
And sometimes a lot of times this is exhausting.
My life is exhausting daily.
Yeah.
In the sense of I have to work to live. So one thing when you're sick, and I've learned this again from a very young age, I remember at Sick Kids, they have this big window in the atrium area, and I used to just sit there at 14, and I would sit on the bench alone because I'd been there for months.
Right.
And the world is passing you by. I'm getting emotional. And I was young, so I would get angry because they would expect me to do my schoolwork and all that.
Right.
And I get it now. And I did some of it, but I was really struggling. And you're a teenager. You're not...
you don't have the perception of life at that point in time. You're not understanding everything. Yeah.
That adults don't even face.
You're going through puberty. Let's not forget about what it's like to be 14.
Literally. And you're not able to be a teenager.
Yeah.
And I used to sit at that window, and the world would just be passing by. And, your doctors go home, your nurses do their 12-hour shift, and I know they loved me. I know they did.
The people who work at Sick Kids, I just want to say,
I still talk to them.
They're sent from some magical
the hardest job I could ever have.
Yeah, they're sent from some magical place, and then they just
It's a very hard job, and I can't say that just as being a patient. The unit that I would be on is 6A. So that was GI, but also mixed with transplant.
Right. So oh my gosh.
I would watch newborn babies come in, and throughout my stays, I would be there with them. And at that time, it was different. You'd go in their rooms, you'd sit with them, and you'd watch them die.
That's it. Yeah.
They die. It was really heartbreaking. But you realize, life keeps going. Your life doesn't stop. And that's what I learned just
By sitting there.
at sitting there. And I'm like, I used to think in my head, I'm like, does anyone know like what I'm going through?
Yeah.
And because you're so alone, and that's like hard at that age, and
It's hard at any age.
it's hard at any,
But as a child, like,
and it's what makes it hard as an adult is you're number one so aware. I've put a lot of work into my mental health, like by choice since I was 15.
I just want to pause there for a second about mental health, because it is my belief that if you are diagnosed with any serious illness, chronic illness, whether it's, you can survive with this disease, but it's going to impact you for the rest of your life. I honestly feel like that diagnosis should not only come with a referral to a specialist, but it should come with, an appointment to see a mental health practitioner. Whether you choose to go, that's your choice. Like, and people may get into that moment of when they want to go to get mental health, support, but it should be a mandatory, I'm giving you this diagnosis and I'm also giving you this.
1000%. And I think I only know so much because I've had to learn how to advocate for myself because I've been sick
For so long.
my whole life.
Yeah.
And again, like going through this during the pandemic, like obviously our economy is just terrifying.
Everyone is struggling right now.
Like the fact that I even have a job is like, I'm lucky. But your bills don't stop. Your mortgage doesn't
No,
stop.
nothing stops. Life goes on.
Life goes on. I had to go back to work way too early. Because the backlog with the government, I wasn't getting EI. I actually only probably in March only finally got EI from when I was in the hospital from December 2021 until practically April.
It's interesting. I was diagnosed when I was 20. So I was in my second year of university at the University of Toronto. And I just remember like getting my diagnosis. Now, granted, life went on for me. Like, I wrote an exam 2 days after I was like discharged from hospital. Now, granted, those decisions were also made. I made those decisions based on my ignorance of not realizing there's a disability department that I could have went to. And you have to keep in mind, like, when I was first diagnosed, I've said in previous podcasts and to our listeners that I lived in the dark for about 4 years with my disease. I told no one. I didn't tell my parents. Yeah, and partially because I actually didn't understand what was happening to me. And my first experience with a GI was not good. When I was diagnosed, nothing was explained to me. So I didn't know what was available to me. Like, at that point, I was wearing heart monitors. I had just gone into the hospital, was very emancipated, like serious issues, just diagnosed, heavy on the prednisone, like taking a ridiculous dosage of prednisone. And here I am, like, walking into an exam.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
I think I don't even want to say it's like ignorance. It's like you do what you have to do.
Yeah.
I was discharged from the hospital one day and I had an interview for like my 911 operator test.
Yeah.
I hadn't slept. I was sick as a dog. I went home, changed into like, I hadn't slept, and I went straight to the interview.
I think society is getting better now
it's better now than what it was.
Yeah, society is getting better now. And just like, this was 16 years ago for me. So society is getting better now, I think, at acknowledging illness. But I think with IBD, and, anybody who's listening who has IBD or loves somebody or cares for somebody with IBD, the hardest part, I think, about our illness in particular, and some others that are similar to ours, is it's invisible.
It's invisible.
So you ask for help, you advocate for help, and quite frankly, like, you look well.
Yeah.
For the most part. Like, if someone doesn't know you, if someone doesn't know that you just dropped 35 pounds in a hospital stay for 3 weeks, do you know what I mean? Like, it's very much, and it really wasn't until.
It takes a toll on you.
Yeah. It wasn't until, like, obviously I lived with my parents, so they saw my disease as it was unfolding. And then I met my husband and we started living together, and then he started to see my disease. But there's even times, like, Alia, where he'll say to me, like, I'll be in pain. Like, I remember I'm not doing well right now with my disease. I'm having a little bit of a hard time, which is also why the podcast has been a little bit slow. Dealing with physical health, dealing with mental health. I've not been shy about it at all. But, last week I was literally doubled over on the floor. I was like lying on top of the ottoman, like, because I was just like, I can't get on the floor because with my arthritis, if I get on the floor, I'm not getting up.
Oh, I know.
Plus, I was in too much pain
Yeah.
in my abdomen. So I'm like on the ottoman. My husband was out in the backyard with the dog, comes in, and I'm literally like sweating. I'm doubled over. I'm yelling at him to get the bucket because I'm going to puke
Cute.
and I can't get up. Like just big old issues. And even in those moments, like when that kind of passed and like I literally, I fell asleep out of pure exhaustion. Like it was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I just passed out. And like, even then he says like, I always say to him that he has IBD by association. Like he doesn't have IBD, but he's got it by association. Yeah. But even then in those moments, like he says to me, like, I don't understand the severity of the pain that you're going through right now. And like, and I remember being in so much pain and all I could hear him saying was like, what do I do? How can I help you? Like,
Nothing.
right. And like, I'm just kidding. There's nothing like, there's nothing you can do. Like, I just need you to sit there. And at this point, the dog is jumping and licking my face. So I was also like, you need to get this dog. As much as I love him,
They get away from
please take him away.
been there.
But it's hard. And I think that's like, I remember the first time I met somebody who had IBD and I was just like, there's more of us.
Yes.
Do you know? And then since then I've met like thousands, obviously from all over the world. And it's amazing. But I have different experiences in terms of the people in my corner who have helped me to their capacity, but also in a capacity that was helpful for me at the time that I was experiencing the help. And I'm lucky in that way. But when you meet someone else with IBD, like I've met people who tell me their life stories and we talk about all the things that I don't even know what their names are. Bless them is what I say. Do you know? But it's a different understanding. It's a different connection. It's just like, I don't even know how to put it in words. I don't know how to put in words what it's like to meet somebody else who understands the struggles that you have.
It's like almost like a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Of like,
It's validating.
It's validation.
Yeah.
Because even though I'd like to highlight, again, I've been sick for a very long time. I don't think it's about competition because I've noticed a lot of people are like, well, I've been sick of this. I've been sick of that.
Yeah. I've had this many surgeries. I haven't had
that. Does
like, it's irrelevant.
That's irrelevant. What you feel is what you feel, and everyone's feelings are valid. And what I say is, like I said, I didn't have like the support I needed.
That you needed. Yeah.
My whole life with it.
Yeah.
And it's scarred me, it's traumatized me, but it's also made me a better person. I always try to, people tell me I'm getting really soft as I get older.
Girl, it's okay.
But it's like, for me,
it humbles you.
It does humble you. And when someone's telling me something about how they feel, it's not my job to understand that.
No, I'm just here to listen.
Listen and be respectful.
Yeah.
Because we're not meant to understand anyone. Like, I'm not going to understand I can relate to you because you have IBD.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to understand fully your experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I will say it is very hard. I felt it for my dad. And during the pandemic, my dad was diagnosed with rectal cancer. And I had to manage his care also, going through all of this, and still am. But watching someone suffer,
like now you're on the other side.
I always knew it was horrible. I can't, like, it's a lot of the reasons why my coping mechanism is probably not healthy. I keep a lot of people away from me. I have a lot of great friends. I don't really do relationships. They're hard for me. Because you really need I've learned, you really need a special person. And I don't want the pity party or whatever. Obviously, I have issues in how I pick people.
Don't we all?
No, I do.
I had issues. I don't anymore. I love my husband very much. He's been
getting better.
Just throwing that out there.
But like it's terrifying because there's no guarantees in life.
No.
And you want that reassurance. And a lot of people can't handle the anxiety or understand the reassurance that you need from them daily. Like, are you sure? Like they don't see, if they haven't seen those ugly moments of you like literally puking if you still have your butthole, puking and crapping at the same time, hands down, losing blood, like just death's door, and that's a normal day.
Yeah, you know what? I've always said, like, when everybody asks me about advice, like, what's some words of advice? I have lots of advice that I would give somebody newly diagnosed, like, from keeping things like a food journal and listening to your body and resting and all these other things, One of the biggest things I always say is that you need to be 1000% transparent with the people in your life about your disease. And I've always explained, like, unless you have IBD, you don't understand this disease. We can't expect people in our lives to understand what we're going through if we don't tell them. Like, we need to tell them. But then, Aaliyah, it puts the ball in their court. What they do with that information is up to them. That's right. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to say cut people out of my life because that sounds like I'm being a proper bit. Like snip, snip.
No, it's not.
Like, I wish
you
you
have
well.
boundaries.
That's right.
Well, I don't have any
I wish you well. I hope you have a fantastic life, but unfortunately,
Your
this
energy
is not working.
Yeah.
You know? Exactly.
You're fogging up my.
And I'm also, oh, yeah,
You're fogging up my.
fogging my shit up.
My sage.
And I'm also like, and I'm not saying it in a way too that like, oh, I'm just trying to cut people, but I also have to expect as well that like those people who I've cut out of my life may also not have the capacity for me in their life. And that's okay. Like, that's okay. You know what I mean? But for every one person that I've like snipped, two more have come.
Yeah. People will come into.
That's right. And the more honest and open I've been, and I mean like 1000% transparent, the people who have the capacity to be in my life and support me have become better for it. Like, they're like, there's, I have a lot of beautiful people in my life. There's a lot of beautiful people in the world. Truly. There really is. Like,
There is.
straight up, like, second date, I told my husband that I had inflammatory bowel disease, and he was just kind of like, what is that? So, like, I explained, like, I literally was like, we cannot go far from bathroom right now. Like, I'm not feeling super well.
And that's hard.
Yeah. I had also just gone into the hospital like a month before I met him. I was like down 37 pounds. And I was like,
hide those things, and it was.
Listen, with my second date, I was like, I'm also going to tell you, I am not this skinny friend. Like, not, this is not me.
Look like this sometimes.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, I was just in the hospital. I lost 37 pounds. Like, I am drinking all the milkshakes until that body like comes back. Do you know what I mean? Like, so if you're looking for, no disrespect to any like really skinny girls, but if you're looking for somebody who's got a thigh gap, I have one right now, but it will not be like that forever.
I'm going to be there.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I made it clear, do you know?
Yeah.
And
You have to also like for your own.
yeah, like
For your own.
and my husband is like, when we first met, like one of those people as well, like, you are not having these conversations, like, we are not flirting, like, and I was just kind of like, wow.
You got to just.
Here we are. Like, think about the worst locker room you've ever been in and then multiply that by 1,000 because this is where life is, right?
Yeah.
So I honestly felt like the more that I became honest and transparent, but the right people just ended up being in my space.
Yeah, no, I've become more blunt with certain
They
things.
have to be.
You have to be. The only time it's hard for me is, when you have those deep down, deep, those insecurities.
When you're alone and you're by yourself. And
Yeah.
like,
So like,
yeah.
am I ashamed of, like, for example, my ostomy? Am I ashamed of it? No. If someone had something to say about it, I'd probably laugh in their face.
And then we're going,
But like, I would deep down feel not good about it because it is an insecurity. I know they're a complete ass for like whatever they say.
yeah, like, piss off.
But it's like, it's your insecurities, and even the insecurities I have going into, it's trying to have relationships, of trying to have open communication about what I'm feeling and why I react the way I do to certain things. It's like, I try to keep those, I try to be as transparent with everyone as possible so they can decide.
That's right. The ball's in their court.
It's just like when anything, like even if I didn't have this, it's like, just with dating, like, be honest. Like, if you're dating a bajillion other people, please let me know. If you have
chlamydia,
if you
I
are
also need to know
married
that.
or if you have children, please let me know, because I need to be like, that's my decision.
That's me. I also need to let you know that this is what my life is like, and sometimes we're gonna cancel plans because I'm not gonna feel well.
It's not like, it's not going to be
yeah,
puppies and lollipops.
no,
I'm going to
absolutely.
like, after work sometimes, like,
I'm crashing. That's it.
I might need to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Didn't know. Microwave.
If that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
No,
Start
I have
after
to say,
3.
it's
Yeah.
interesting because it's so funny that you say that. I understand like the internal feelings. Like, I'm bold as shit. Oh, part of the plan. When it comes to all the things, and like, for listeners who are from the Toronto area, like, they know the region of Scarborough. I grew up in Scarborough, born and raised. Like, Scars to the world is, Scarborough made me. I also come from like an East Coast family who have zero filter.
Yep.
It doesn't matter where they are.
Yeah.
They just so like, I will throw down, like, if you're gonna disrespect me or my disease, like, I like legit gonna throw down. Anyone from Scarborough knows what I'm talking about. I will throw down. But then like I'm gonna go home and be like,
I know.
like, so you've been, but I feel like
You have to defend
that's what I'm
yourself in
saying.
that moment.
Like you said, what?
Yeah,
Like,
and then I'm gonna go home and be in my feelings about it.
that's it. I'm gonna be in my feelings. But I always say like be in your feelings and like have that self pity and go through these stages of grief. But I say to everyone, just get your ass up. Get your ass up. Don't stay there too long. Go get the help you need from friends and family, from medical professionals. Like get your ass up. Like, you know,
You'll find the people that, I don't know how to say this without it sounding like not, we all, like
trying to all be very politically correct here.
yeah,
Get your ass up, yo.
and I don't like that because I'm not politically correct at all.
Yeah.
I just like say what it is. But we all have, I hope we all have friends. I have lots of friends and I'm really lucky. Like my friends are my chosen family. Like
That's a whole nother level too.
I have amazing friends, but it took me a long time to realize like that means I'm a good person too. Because I always thought like, maybe I'm not that great.
But by tonight,
Thank
we
you.
have the people. That's
Yes.
right.
But
You are who you surround yourself with. Okay.
100%. But some of my friends, like for certain things that I'm going through in my life, it's not that I wouldn't share things with them.
But you just know their capacity.
Yeah, I know their capacity. And it's not in like a shady way. So you have to surround yourself with people that can, for specific things too.
But I would also hope too that the friends in your circle also understand your capacity and know that there are certain things that like they shouldn't, or certain things that they shouldn't maybe be coming to you right now. But I think that's the part of having like true friendship. Like I have a particular friend who my closest friend, closest friend, my buddy Zeets. I can call him for like a million things, but I know that when it comes to certain things to deal with my health,
He's like, he can't.
it's not that I don't know if it's that he doesn't have the capacity or more so that he's just like, Wix, I need you to get better. Like,
Guys, it's different with
yeah. And then,
events to any men around. It's different with guys.
love you. We love you. But then I have like other friends who I will say they're my friends, but they're not in my internal circle. They're like a couple rings out.
Yeah.
But I know like the first time I'm sick, they don't have IBD. I know I'm calling this one.
Yep.
Like he is going to give me what I need at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I totally understand.
And that's amazing. And like we all respect the relationships that we have with each other. Like I'm not one of those friends that it's like, where have you been for the last 9 months? Why haven't you called me? Like when my phone rings and it's you, it's like, what up, girl?
Like nothing ever changed. It's like
That's
we
what I
just
mean.
picked up where we left.
Yeah.
That's how I am with my friends.
Same. And that's what we need.
Because it's like for me, I don't know where my life's gonna go. I could like tomorrow I could wake up.
Don't they say like something about 7 years of friends and then they just kind of cycle into a new?
I don't know. I honestly, I've had friends that I've known. I have one friend that I've had since I was 4. My other friends are like,
I bet you that's funny. You can pick up the phone even if it's years later. It's like
we mostly talk on social, but I really should call her. She's honestly
we're
like,
just having epiphanies now.
she's
Call
like
your
the best
friends.
person, but like
Take anything from this. Call your friends.
I have friends for like over 20 years, and like
There are just like
even if I don't see them all the time, like we're just like we get each other, we know each other, and you know what? There is like when I was going through,
so show them your Barbie butt.
This guys, I did not show them. I did not show them. They would be like, oh my God, Alia, put that. They'd be like, oh my God, Alia, stop.
It wasn't guys that you showed her, girls.
No, I didn't show the guys. You kidding me?
Why? Girl, I'm gonna shock them into the next country.
No, I'm more than happy. But they're gonna pay their dues and they're gonna have a money done there with real money.
Gosh, I'm gonna be your manager.
I'm gonna be your $100 American bills. Okay.
We're gonna auction this off. This is gonna be a good thing. But yeah, okay. So before we end,
Yeah.
and I know we're at the end, and I'm. This has been like it's been a lot. This has been a lot here. You've been through a lot. You mentioned your dog, and I know in a previous conversation, we talked about, and I don't even think we've actually talked about animals on the show before, which is why I want to take like a couple minutes right now before we end the show, just to pay homage to our pets. 3-legged, 4-legged, no legs at all. Maybe it's a reptile. I don't really know. Maybe it's a fish. But
anything that's not human.
anything that's not human. That's what I mean. But you had made an interesting point. It's amazing how you mentioned you're in hospital. You're facing this life-changing surgery. And you said my dog's at home. Like my dog is
part of the decision.
like my dog is waiting for me.
It's part of the decision why part of the reason I made the decision, although you really don't have a decision, which is fine. But it's like, well, I was like, let's just
I need to be back.
Let's get the ball rolling. Let's get out of here. My dog's having a meltdown.
He's on a hunger strike. He's not eating.
No, she wasn't. My dog does not do well when I'm not around. Like, it's like we feed off. It's just
I feel like everybody, if you do not have a pet and you're listening to this right now, you're probably like, what is wrong with these two chicks? Like they're talking about an animal.
she's a 90-pound, like,
Oh, she's like big presence. Like
she's tick,
you're,
you know? She's past the line of being tick now.
she's fluffy.
That's what all the facilities people in my condo say. She's a golden retriever. Oh, my girl just like she feels me. Like she knows. And she
must have been dogs are so smart. Like,
when I was discharged in that first period before I found out about the surgery, when it was just the adrenal thing, though they thought it was that like my sister had my dog and I was discharged for one day. And obviously my sister knows my dog, but it was crazy. I was so sick. Like,
but she knew her mom.
my dog was standing over me barking. She wouldn't let nobody near me.
Like my mom is sick.
Yeah, even when my illness spread, like they made me wait like 4 to 6 weeks in pain before they finally did something. That was last summer. And my dog, you couldn't even get anyone. I would have people come to take her out. She would hide behind me. She would not leave my side. Like, and it frightened me because I knew something wasn't right. But emergency's like, yeah, something's wrong, but we can't help you.
Even my dog knows something wrong.
And I literally said to my doctor, I was like, I think I'm going to die. The dog is telling me
the dog is telling me
I'm going to die, so someone needs to intervene. And lo and behold, right where my dog was like would put her head and right where exactly I had the pain, that's exactly right when they did the endo, they're like, exactly where you have pain, you have ulceration. I would have thought,
who would have where your pain is. No, you know what? I've had dogs my whole life growing up, family dogs. And my husband and I...
That was good.
Yeah, during the pandemic. So, what was it? March 2022. I don't even know what year we're in right now. March 2022, we got a dog. Okay. My dog is now a year and 2 months. Yeah, he's 14 pounds. Like Archie... Yeah, he's a little dude. Yeah, beach poo. He had to be little because we fly and like he needs to...
Oh, it's hard, yes.
Yeah, and... like I've always had animals growing up, and like I remember when I was at my sickest point, one of our family dogs, like she did not like going down to the basement. My room was in the basement in my family home, and she didn't like going to the basement, the stairs, and she was older. When I was ill, she was down those stairs all day long with me. Like my mom would bring her food down to the basement because she would not leave, and she would just stay there in the bed with me. And now that I have Archie, and you know, about a month after. I'm not going to get emotional. About a month after we got Archie, I got very ill. Very ill. Then my mental health spiraled even out of control. And I remember Archie at this time, like Archie was what, a month and a half, 3 months, about 3 months old. He was 2 pounds because he was a mini at this point. He was a fluffy potato, quite literally. I remember being on the ground. My husband had just like went to Tim Hortons or something. And I got down on the ground, partly because I was in pain, but also thought I was going to faint. And I was like, I do not need a concussion on the way down. So I had gotten on the ground, and this little thing, this 2-pound little thing, came over to where he was and like basically like nuzzled right into like my face and my neck and just stayed there and whimpered. And I'm sitting there like quiet, and I'm trying to love this thing. And I literally remember saying to myself like out loud, like, I'm not going to die because I can't leave this dog with my husband.
No,
granted, my husband is like an amazing dad dog, dog dad sort. But I was just kind of like
that's why
this is my reason. Like, you know, like I'm not gonna. And this little thing is whimpering, and I'm thinking, oh my god, like I need to get up. Like he's terrified. He thinks like, as ridiculous as this sounds. And like I go to my infusions now, and like COVID. My husband usually comes with me and sits with me, but because of COVID, they only want one person. So I sit there for the 2 hours by myself. But like, it is mandatory that the dog comes with us. Like, so the dog stays in the car with my husband. They go for walks at the local park, like while I'm getting my infusion, because like, and then I come out and every time he sees like my IV, I'll be driving home like this and he'll just put his head here. And I'm just like,
when I do my Stelara injections, I usually don't feel good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she'll just lay with me. But a few weeks ago is really, I think it was, beginning of March. For a while, I was going through really bad depression again. Just really struggling. And I didn't even have the capacity to cry.
Which happens a lot with depression.
Yeah.
So with you, like, people feel like depression is like this extreme sadness, and then you're just emotional and pain all the time.
Like, you're just, like, empty.
Yeah.
Like, I knew I needed to cry. I couldn't even cry.
Yeah.
And my dog, she sleeps beside me. It's her bed, her place. I just pay the bills.
Yeah, I do not crate my dog. I did when he was a puppy, so he didn't pee all over the place. But
I tell anyone who's like,
he has his own pillow
he's
on the bed.
sleeping in your bed. Yeah, no, I have a queen size bed. It's her bed.
I can just see people not rolling their eyes.
Yeah, no, I'm never probably gonna be married with that because of the dog. It's okay. But I was in such a dark place after my surgery, and I go through it still. And like I said, she sleeps beside me, but I remember specifically it was probably 4 nights in a row. She came and I just
Like that gave you that pressure.
the pressure on my chest, and she just sat there, and I just hugged her probably for 45 minutes at a time, like hysterically bawling.
And I just want to point out that these are dogs that are not trained to help us. So imagine how amazing the dogs are that are trained to
And
assist.
she just lay there. She's probably like, "Oh God, here we go." Like, I wonder what she tells her friends at the dog park. She's like, "My mom lost it again last night."
Girl, she's lost. This is her. She'll be all right.
They're like, "Mom poops out of the bed." That's what I tell people. I'm like, imagine what she tells people.
Okay, well, you know what, Aaliyah, it has been so fantastic to have you here. I appreciate your candidness. I appreciate your just like unfiltered just take on life. Honestly, I really do. I appreciate you sharing like such intimate things with us here today. And I hope that whoever's listening, take, even if it's just a small lesson, but I hope they do take something from this experience, from the trauma like you have taken. And I think one of the key messages from both of us, but definitely from your story, is that this is not like a cyclical cycle. I feel like people feel like once you get out of one stage of grief or feeling unwell or, one emotion, and you get past that you're never going to go back to that kind of space. And it's not. This is not linear.
Yeah.
Like this is a journey of ups and downs.
Yeah, healing's not linear, right?
No, it's not at all. And I think you've, really pointed out some important things. I think it was important that you were so open about talking about the people in your life and the capacity in which they may or may not have to support you in certain times. Obviously talking about pets. I think the humor that you brought to such an extensive surgery and experience in your life, I really do hope it helps someone. I haven't had a surgery as of right now. I don't know if at some point in my life a surgery will be in the cards for me, but having people like you come on to the show and share those experiences, I feel like I'm filling my tool belts.
Well, I'm always here for you too. So.
Yes, well, we're all.
Yeah, you're stuck.
I'm gonna have to see your Barbie butt. So
Hold on, no.
But yes, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being on the show. To our listeners, thank you for being here with us. The video option is new, and we're really excited about it. I wish you all the best. Until next time, strength and positive thoughts.
The information on this podcast is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. All information contained on or related to this podcast is for general information purposes only.